So we're going to talk about three important concepts: backfilling, front-loading, and embedding support. And we're going to focus on backfilling first. So for a minute, though, I just want to share this picture with you. So this notion of how do we support our ELLs and core instruction, and again, I'm thinking about the science instruction, and you're covering the periodic chart and the elements and so forth, and so we would often think for our Ls, especially in our upper grades, well, they're probably not going to keep up with the class, so we'd better water it down for them. And to me, in my thinking and the thinking of many experts in this area, if you are continually watering down instruction for any student who's struggling to learn, whether it's kids with disabilities or whether it's our ELLs, if we continually water down instruction, what you're going to get as an end result when they leave public education and get ready to go out into adult life is that they've had a watered down education. They are not going to be meeting the competencies that they need to be productive adults out in society, and certainly not be college material for going off to higher ed and engaging in higher learning. So what I want to offer us today is a chance to think about how we might water up the curriculum. Instead of watering it down, how might we water it up in our core classrooms? So here you see a picture, and up here at the top are the core standards. This is the content we're held accountable for. This is what's going to be on our state testing. This is, eventually what our students are going to need to get their SAT scores in shape to go off to college. And so we have this rigorous core curriculum, and we have been developing common core standards, around the country, and each state has their own version of a rigorous curriculum. So we have this up here at the top. And what we want to think about doing is watering up what we're doing so that our students can reach those high standards. And so at the base of the triangle here, you have what we could think of as foundational skills. Over on the left are the reading foundational skills. Can you actually read the words? Can our students decode the words and understand, the letters and sounds and how to read the words, and conversely then how to write and spell? And so you have the foundational skills over here. And then over here you have language mechanics. And so in English, which happens to be a very complicated language to learn, we have various grammar conventions that we use, and syntax, and we have the pragmatics of what is socially appropriate in various situations. And so we have the basics of language mechanics. Well, typically over here on the left, the foundational reading and writing skills in an RTI model or multi-tiered systems of support, we may have reading specialists or math specialists or intervention teachers who would be providing intervention support over here in the foundational skills. That's probably going to be more present in our elementary schools than our middle and high schools, though the RTI model can apply in middle and high school as well. And then over here on the right, with the language mechanics for our English language learners, we would pretty much have our ESL services, our ESL specialists providing formal language instruction and language and support. And our ESL teachers typically work in various kinds of models. There are the traditional pull-out models where we pull out the English learners for 30 minutes a day or however many minutes a day, and we teach them the language. Sometimes we have push-in models where the ESL specialists go into the classroom and try to contextualize the language learning in the classroom, and then some schools will have ESL specialists doing both. And then we may even have schools where we don't have a sufficient staffing of ESL specialists. We have, maybe a handful of ELLs, and so we'll have itinerant ESL specialists who will go around and do the best they can with very limited resources. In California, we don't have ESL specialists who pull out or push in. We require all of our classroom teachers to have an add-on to their credential of how to support language in the classroom. And we do have curriculum standards for what they should be teaching and so forth, but honestly, it's not always taught. But anyway, so over here we have designated roles where we may have intervention programs or ESL programs where students are supposed to be getting those services. And then we often have paraprofessionals working with our ELLs in the classroom, and they're doing their best to provide additional support for those things. And the classroom teachers pretty much designate that role out, but I'd like to suggest that teachers and paraprofessionals working together in a core classroom could give some more intentional and purposeful and planful thought to how they could support the basic foundational skills that our ELLs need. But let me just finish in the model before I go off on a tangent there. So for some students, they may have difficulty at those foundational levels of skills. But in order to be successful up there at the top, they need vocabulary and comprehension and meaning-making kinds of skills. And so vocabulary is the #1 challenging area for in English, functioning in English for our ELLs, because we use a lot of academic vocabulary in our classrooms. The language of the classroom, the language of our disciplines, the language of social studies, the language of science, and we use a lot of vocabulary in our core classes, and our ELLs may not understand those words. In fact, we have research that a lot of our students, even native English speakers, don't always understand that academic vocabulary. So we've had a recent push to more intentionally teach academic vocabulary in core instruction. But I can tell you that for our L students, it is really critical that we do high quality instruction of that academic vocabulary, because that's the meaning making part of this idea of watering up the curriculum. So if we're providing foundational support as needed, and then at the heart of it, providing a lot of meaning-making support for our ELL students, they have a much greater chance of being able to get up there to the level of focusing in the core standards. So that's why I call it watering up. By providing those supports, we're making it possible for our students to access that core knowledge.